Okay, I think we're up to episode 4, and I'll read this paragraph and then talk about it. Whereas on February 5th, 2025, Paul Johnson posted a YouTube video titled Lies at a Texas Senate Committee Hearing, where Paul Johnson accuses the district of having fraudulent practices and illegal policies because he believes the district is fabricating beekeeping lease rates. In that video, he denied that any leases exist for keeping bees. However, in cause number 2333-21, the district has found through the discovery process that Paul Johnson has a lease for keeping bees on his own land. In that lease, Paul Johnson pays others to place bees on his land as opposed to others paying him for allowing bees on the land. Okay. Um, I did make that video titled Lies at the Texas Senate Committee Hearing, and I did describe certain district practices as fraudulent and illegal. And as regards to beekeeping, I just showed you in the last episode the actual documents that there's no question their practices are fraudulent because they are posting false data about the amount of lease rates when there are no lease rates. And when they post that false information in a government document, that makes it criminal, and that is an illegal policy. And that's what I was talking about. What they were doing is fraudulent and it is illegal, criminally illegal. Uh, and it's because he believes the district is fabricating beekeeping lease rates. Well, I actually showed you they are, and they confessed, yes, there are no lease rates. Yes, I put that on there. You can see that published. I have those lease rates published, but there were no leases that I got those lease rates from. So in that video, he denied that any leases exist for keeping bees. Well, what I denied that there were any leases for income to the landowner is what is required for them to be making this calculation. I know people pay to have bees on their property, but that is not income to the landowner. So this second part, just because people lease bees, those are not leases for income to the landowner for keeping bees on their property. So this whole argument is just kind of senseless. So, and we'll go on to the next paragraph. Whereas Paul Johnson made a similar allegation regarding beekeeping rates in his January 31st, 2025 YouTube video titled First Video, What's Going On at the Bastrop Central Appraisal District videos. And that really doesn't say anything, so we'll go on to the next one. Whereas the board finds that after consultation with legal counsel, there is no legal merit to Paul Johnson's claims. The chief appraiser is authorized and required to determine lease rates for beekeeping and other agricultural activities under the Texas Tax Code 2351, number 4. In addition, the Texas Comptroller's Manual for the Appraisal of Agricultural Land, page 29, provides that if leases are unavailable, the chief appraiser must use alternative methods to determine the amount of a reasonable less, I think that should be lease, in the area, or a lessee in the area would pay to lease the land. Okay. What they're referring to is the Comptroller's Manual that says, under certain circumstances, if there are not beekeeping areas or whatever land classification, if there aren't enough of them in your area, you might have to look outside of your area to see what the lease rates are. And then they have, and it says you might actually have to calculate up what the lease would be. That's what they're saying page 29 tells them. And page 29 refers to the big instructions for making that calculation to make up what a lease rate would be. That's called Exhibit 2 or B, I think, Appendix B or something. Anyhow, and it's a long thing. I've only have the second part. There's a full page, and it tells you subtract this and do that and do all that kind of stuff. And at the end of it, it says appraisers should not use the owner operator budget method as a substitute for the cash lease and share lease methods. The law specifies the lease methods that may be used. In other words, this whole thing that they're saying about page 29 is meaningless. The law and what the comptroller's manual says about it really doesn't matter if the comptroller's manual conflicts with the law. But right there in the comptroller's manual, at the very end, it says you cannot use this other method. You must use lease rates. Okay, that's enough for this episode, and we'll have another one coming up. Check back. Thanks.